couple minutes for the technology to do its thing. Vlad, give us a green light.
Sounds good.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's live. We're good.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Sister, we're once again live.
Once again live. And we're very happy to be here to celebrate once again Be Better November.
Yes.
And start thinking about all we learned.
Exactly. We're looking for holiday season ahead. It is a happy Wednesday. It was a very eventful month, and there are more travels coming up soon. But there's a lot to catch you up on today. And where we're starting on reflecting on initiatives during this month.
Yeah.
So you want to kick off?
Yep. So this month we had many different initiatives with Convert through Be Better November. So we had first the case study panel. Then we had the expert tips through the 15-day data challenge. We saw awesome people and women in experimentation sharing their knowledge, their expertise. And we also went to Conversion Hotel, and we were representing Convert. So we have a lot of things to cover. Let's go with the first one.
Yeah.
The panel case.
Panel case. So this one I remember we were still covering in the very first live. So first thing that happened during Be Better November. And as we discussed, right, it was how to present better case studies. So if you're working in case studies for your business or your clients, well, now Convert has an evergreen piece for you to consider. Things on like what to avoid and how to demonstrate expertise without harming your reputation. Important topics, grab a coffee, go watch it. I'm just gonna open the screen that we have. We're gonna start sharing some links and some screens as part of this live. Let's try to do this. This was the case study, right? So 1 hour there, evergreen resource from Convert. And yeah, this comment catches me every time. I'm a simple man. Yeah, Shiva, I understand you.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're gonna talk more. I'm gonna talk more about this later. But I think this part of this live was so good, not only for people like me who are just starting, but people in any stage of their careers, because we always need to be reminded the importance and the harmful details in case studies that can actually make us look bad.
And case study is all about like talk about your work, right? Is what Diane brought up in Conversion Hotel, but we'll get to that topic soon. 15-day data challenge.
Yes. So we had this 15-day data challenge where Convert invited many experts from the field. I would mention them by name, but it would take me a while. And these experts brought their decades long of expertise into snippets of knowledge. And those snippets are available in their LinkedIn account. We're going to go over through some of them. And these are very good. And I would say, especially for people that are starting, that don't have as many years of expertise in data analysis, because we tend to get lost in the small details. And this is not what we should do when we're doing data analysis. And through their expertise, we don't make the rookie mistakes.
Yeah, there's one specific post that we're going to cover here, the analyst rabbit hole. We're going to get into that detail. You mentioned there was a lot of action from women in experimentation. I don't necessarily participate actively in that community, but because of all the action that happened in Conversion Hotel and Lucia's proactivity on reaching out and getting everything on camera, right, as we prepare for lives like this, I got a lot of exposure on what's going on that side, and it's just fascinating to see this supportive community. Like I left it wishing I had started my career with such a supportive group like that. And I have another screen to share here. Let me see if I'll do this properly this time. This is one of the posts that was surfaced by Daphne. Vlad, can you confirm that you're seeing the right screen? I would like that. I don't have the return from.
Yes, we can see the
Fascinating.
right screen.
So Daphne raised the 15, right, inspiring women in the community to follow as you're getting connected and getting support from these active people. I think that is good for, right, newcomers. You have the reference there. Follow these people.
Yeah, and women in experimentation, of course, I'm part of women in experimentation, so I'm biased, but I truly think this community is precious for our field as a whole because in this group, it's all about support. It's about treating each other as colleagues and not competitors. Uh, we see that in that group, there's space for everyone to shine. And the Speak Up to Upskill and Up Level contest allowed people who don't have as much space to shine to grab their spotlight, and that was incredible. So if I were you, I, like my brother said, I would connect to these people. I would follow what they're saying because they know a lot, and I would try to bring this supportive mindset into our field as a whole.
I wanted to play one of the clips that we captured from the Women in Experimentation. So adding some unique value to the live. So clips that we captured and we didn't produce yet, we didn't share online. But we talked to she, and she was glad to surface this for the community. I'm gonna try to play this. Let's see if it's gonna get the audio. I hope so. So we're testing new things today. Vlad, you see the video player, correct?
We did.
Perfect.
So just do what you love, show it to others that you still love it, and you might be on the podium somewhere in the future, just because you're in love with what you're doing. So that's my story.
Yeah, that was super nice to capture as all the action was happening in Conversion Hotel.
Yeah.
We have more clips to share, but I feel like we're getting into the reflections and reactions. I'm moving to this with another post from Daphne, shared her perspective and experience calculating and using MDE, minimum detectable effect, correctly when setting up an experimentation program. And honestly, it feels like we think very similar about like how to go about MDE for teams. Let me see if I can share a screen and help you visualize what I have in mind. Interesting carousel post. So I think what captured my attention was basically the setup metrics, but also the fact that she's also suggesting a Spiro A/B test. And it's usually what I do because of the way that they group by the weeks for calculating MDEs, right? Like I remember even sharing screen with this resource last time. So it's nice to see that we think in very similar terms for calculating MDE.
Yeah, and this is essential for everyone. So I just finished my first TLC cohort course with Ruben and Kelly, and one of the main things I learned in that course was exactly the importance of MDE.
Yeah.
A lot of people, we're going to talk about this later, but a lot of people don't understand properly the importance of this data. They think it's just some pretest whatever information, but this can actually determine success or failure.
Yeah, that's what she's explaining in the carousel. But then I wanted to surface yet another post. Daphne was definitely on fire with posts during November, bringing really a better November attitude.
Yeah.
This other one, she's basically surfacing, right? They avoided the number one trap of data analyst. Resonates a lot because again, my career started as a data scientist, as a senior data analyst, and this idea of going through the rabbit hole. So it's this idea of the analysis rabbit hole, avoid getting into diving too deep into the analysis without a clear goal, right? I think the story that she's trying to play here and to explain is this analyst that was super engaged into particular analysis, bring to a team of stakeholder and nobody really cares because you didn't start with the end in mind. There you go, 7 habits of highly effective people.
Exactly.
But this whole conversation also reminds me a lot of what Tim brought to the stage of Conversion Hotel as a CMO talking about data, right? Being very vocal about starting with a goal, doing the right analysis. And I love how he pitched. It's something that we're still working on the material, but doing the analysis, the dashboard, boring stuff, and embracing that boring part of the work. So it feels like all goes into the same line, and it's really right material out of this 15 data challenge.
Yeah. And one thing that Tim mentioned in his speech in Conversion Hotel that really got me is that you can present the boring stuff as a story. So in literature, we have this thing called the hero journey. So they always start with an end. They go through their process. They have the climax, which is usually a problem or a contradiction that happens, and then they solve it. And if we bring the boring data into this format, this story format, we can turn this data, even though we know it's boring and we're embracing the boringness, we're still making it interesting.
Yeah.
And I particularly love this post. I mentioned it in our first live because I keep falling into this trap. And one day I hope to finally learn to not fall in this anymore.
Start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Hugo, what did Hugo teach us?
So I have this post that I really liked. I think it's super insightful that Hugo taught us that sometimes an experiment doesn't, I'm reading so I can tell you exactly what he said. An experiment can alter not only conversion rates, but also how users navigate in your website. So that kept me thinking, a lot of times we have inconclusive tests or tests that didn't do much, very small, and we're so focused on conversion rate, especially working in an agency. We give so much focus to conversion rate because we have to have this end in mind that we don't realize these small changes. And one thing he mentions is an inconclusive test can change the form users navigate on the website. And if you can find this detail, you can find what is the right next variation, which will eventually bring you to a win. So for me, this was one of the top insights in the 15-day data challenge.
Reminds me a lot, like when I'm cooking some tests, that I always track components the proper way. So we have this layer of, okay, what was the interaction rate with whatever we put it out there? Like, did this change the behavior, even though maybe major metrics didn't move? But also there's this pro tip for the people using the Hotjar. I'm just gonna call it out. I know that there's a version of Hotjar that if you track properly, kind of like the experiment variant, you send it as a custom dimension, and then you populate those funnel reports. You have a really interesting way to look at, okay, for that particular variant, what was kind of the funnel behavior, this path analysis that Hugo is suggesting. It's really about using the right tools, right? There are multiple ways to do this.
Exactly.
That's just one of my experiences.
Yeah.
But I agree with you.
And just to add to that, I remembered something that is not in our plans to talk about, but I have to. So in Conversion Hotel, my colleague from Kingswood City, Marta Miatov, she talks about this. And I think it catches the essence of a test is about the money, of course, but it's also about the learnings. So when we have inconclusive tests, they're not failed because a failed test is only a test that you couldn't finish for some reason. A test that was inconclusive sometimes give you this kind of insight that can lead you to a huge win in the end.
Yeah, I like this positive thinking. I think the next one in line here is Convert join a group of experts to help you get a robust client-side QA to stop missing annoying mistakes. Our favorite, trying to break the experience you created as a QA regression activity.
Yeah.
So I think the learning here for me is that as I get into this product side of the force, QA has been the area that I've been learning the most, like how they like what is their process behind QAing things that go to production, but also how they story point, right? You don't only story point development
Yeah.
effort as part of an initiative. You also story point maybe the QA effort. So you consider the holistic amount of work that goes into pushing something to to production. And yeah, with that, I must give a shout out to my lovely QAs. Shout out to Dale, to Chris, and to Devangi that are always keeping our product quality in check. Love die developers, love die QAs.
Yeah. Yeah, the QA engineer, shout out to my QA engineers as well. Imanshu, Jib, and Ajit. You guys rock. Uh, I think we sometimes underestimate the power and the danger of QA because maybe not as much as in the product side, but in experimentation in agency, we sometimes want to push something live because we have velocity to wonder, we have other plans, and we just really want to see that test live. And we miss one thing, and the whole website breaks. And it's a very sad situation, to say the least.
You have to QA.
I have to QA.
The next topic I had here was Ching offering great advice to test on low traffic websites.
Yeah.
This resonates because I've been there, I've done that.
Mhm.
Let's see. So she's pointing out that it's not possible, right? So if you change the goal from conversion rate, which is naturally low for pages with low traffic, but you start looking at more upstream metrics in the hopes that the baseline of the metric increases, so your MDE calculation downstream becomes easier, right? So it's always that fine balance between those two things. One thing that she recommends, engagement rates, right? So click-through rates, engagement rates.
Yeah.
So you can make this units, this economics of MDE and significance work.
Yeah.
I have a lot of experience with that for the past, past years working in businesses where sometimes you have to dive into optimized pages with low traffic. Engagement rate has been something that, our approach, especially if you're in environments where search traffic is very important, Google has their own definition of what an engaged user is. And what we believe is the ping that they give to Google Chrome to continue all the SEO magic going.
Yep.
So using that definition alone from Google is a good place to start, right? And you will get to a metric that has a much higher baseline to use against your conversion rate if that's too low.
Exactly. And one example she gives in this post, I really like. If you have a website with, let's say, I think she says 7,000 users per cycle, and you want to run this fast because 7,000 users will take forever to end, you can go with an engagement metric like click-through rate with an 80% MDE because for click-through, you can actually get this super high MDE. And then if you get this super high MDE with your changes, you can actually run a good amount of tests on low traffic websites. And that's so insightful. We tend to think, oh, low traffic websites, no A/B testing.
Yeah, it's interesting how she even breaks down like the baseline conversion rate, sample size required per variant. I feel like she's taking a more conservative approach to these numbers. But again, like the message is still the same, right? With a higher baseline conversion rate, if you go to upstream metrics, something like engagement rate, you can make this units of economics here work in a much simpler way.
Yeah. So now, what I would like you to share is this post from Christine.
Okay.
So she gives this very nice summary of the case study panel. So there are 3 questions that you cannot forget when you're working on your case studies. And they are, what is the business strategic aim and how does the hypothesis support it? 2, how did you diagnose the problem? So what data backs the problem up? And 3, how are you dealing with the numbers? how much we can trust the result.
Mhm.
So I love that she summarized it so clearly, because when you're doing your case studies, put this into a post-it and put it in front of you
Mhm.
and try to answer these questions with a case study, and you're already in the right path.
That's strong. I'm thinking here, Atisha shared some great insights on how you plan expansion revenue with LTV segments. It's another something that I had experience in 2 different businesses. So I want to expand on this a little bit. So his approach, let me maybe share the link. His approach is finding these high value segments, which makes a lot of sense, right? It's basically finding the whales. Like, what are the customer group that make the Pareto, right? Like 20% of the users that makes the 80% of whatever revenue numbers or performance numbers you might be looking at. Let me see if I can open this. So let's look. It's another carousel post that came in the beginning of the month. So segmenting the customers, calculating LTV, comparing those LTV, analyzing LTV. I think the message that I want, more than just going through the carousel, I'm going to come back to my notes, is that identifying these customers, but digging through interviews, business can really uncover specific needs of those target customers, right? And then this is not just an exercise of crunching numbers, but really connecting the dots, combining specific knowledge, industry knowledge, and crafting strategies that resonate. However, not all high value customers or segments are created equally. And over prioritizing one group can sometimes lead to either missed opportunities or alienate a group that it's in growth trajectory. So the key, just like for many things in life, is balance. A twist of investment here, and then maybe I'll just comment in specific experience, because I remember when we were in Brainly, maybe I'll get there. When we were in Brainly, we did a lot of this likelihood to convert analysis, which is a sort of correlation analysis where you're basically looking at specific key events and looking at, okay, what key events in a product are most likely to correlate to a conversion? You get into a segment of groups, of customers. And then you'll be able to, again, segment LTV and understand, okay, for my highest LTV customer group, this is the core set of actions that they take into the product before converting. But prioritizing that group alone was alienating a complete different segment, especially in Brainly, whereas like education technology, yeah, the people using the product are students, but people converting in the product are parents.
Yeah.
So the dynamic is completely different. And another experience that I had with this idea of, okay, can we look at the 20% of high LTV that drive 80% of the performance numbers, was in the e-commerce. But in that experience, we actually reached out and did interviews and understood more of what those people were into. And we created a whole like marketing campaign with content dedicated to the ritual that those people had around the like primary products for this e-commerce. So kind of 2 complete different angles out of the same maximizing LTV by understanding the customers that drive the most of that performance. It's interesting, like this is a conversation that can get much deeper.
Yeah.
But I will do a little bit of my investor twist, right? So when you're looking, for example, at high value, high performing stocks, you don't only look at their performance. You want to understand the underlying factors that make that stock successful, right? The foundation analysis, how much cash these guys have in the bank, what is the cash flow analysis, how is shares outstanding, is it decreasing, do they pay dividends?
Yeah.
So there's this analysis to understand the performance. It's the same thing. With the LTV segmentation, it's not just about spotting the top customers. It's about really understanding what makes them the top segment.
Yeah.
So it's a parallel there with my investing universe.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'd love to have a deep conversation about this. I particularly don't work with LTV a lot, so I would learn so
We
much.
got there.
But
And I'm sure that there's a lot of people in the community that can talk about this for a couple hours.
oh yeah, Convert. Let's do this. But we are almost at the time for us to wrap up. So let's jump into the last thing we did this month, and an absolute hoot. Conversion hotel, highly neat, as I like to
Highly
say.
neat, really highly neat.
So let's share. We're gonna share two small snippets of the event that really resonated with us. I want to share Diane Warden's presentation on the importance of message marketing fit, because and I love the way she says it. It doesn't matter if you have the best copywriting in the world. If you don't have a proper message marketing fit, e.g., if you're only worried about showing the features and showing what the product can do, but not what the user will get from it, if you don't make the message clear enough, it doesn't matter how much copywriting you have.
Yeah, the message, I mean, in my product universe right now, we talk a lot about product market fit. So I loved how she brought this message market fit into the whole puzzle. But it's something that I do remember getting a lot from Reforge. Like they have this, right? It's the message market fit, the product market fit, and there was another component of this diagram that they had. But I'll share the video. It's just a snippet of the two principles from the message market fit.
So our first principle is finding your focus, right? And if we find our focus, we'll have a clear, singular message that will cut through the noise. So once we've got our clear focus, that leads us to our second principle, which is to translate the value of our messaging for our customers. So this one is quite personal for me.
So it's a short snippet, right? What are the two takeaways here? Clear focus. I think she worked a lot this concept of what is that we do that it's unique, that it's special, and how do we translate that instead of talking about the features, but talking about what's in it for you, right? How do you humanize that message?
Yeah, and one thing I love, I think that's one of why it resonated so much. She was a translator in past periods of her life, and I was a translator too. And one thing that translators do, translators don't translate from one language to another, but they translate from one culture to another. So it
localize.
Exactly. It's not about putting it into another language, or in this case, it's not about showing what you think you have to share, but we have to make sure that the person who's reading will understand, and that's the power of translation.
I'm going to take this to my end of
Go for it.
Reaction from Conversion Hotel, and we're going to move to a wrap. We're still working on the video, right? So we're shooting we're editing this week, so we're still working on kind of our top 3 takeaways from each one of us. But for me, like if I look back, what was the most memorable thing? I can only think about this one moment, and I'm about to, because I was able to capture it on camera. I'm so happy about it.
Oh no, is it the one I think it is?
It is, but we'll bring it. Tim on stage made a statement. It was just so refreshing to have a CMO talking about data the way, like with that passion, with that energy. But the statement was that presentations can be a form of entertainment. They don't need to be boring. And I'll just show you instead of just telling you. That was just fascinating to capture on camera.
We get sadness.
Can you believe?
For me, it hurts. It really hurts.
Can you believe Team brought up the 7
to 1, yes.
7-1 meme?
No.
There were 2 Brazilians in Conversion Hotel. 3.
No,
We were the ones suffering.
In
That
the
was just
video,
so good.
Yeah, in the video you can hear someone screaming like crazy in the back. That was me, because I told everyone this was a trauma in my
It is a
teenage
national
years.
trauma. It is.
Yeah, it was a real trauma, and He put that on stage, and oh my God, I'm still sad
But
about that.
that's what I said. I'm even kind of saving the biggest moments of
Yeah.
Tim's presentation. That was just a
It
1%
was
thing.
incredible. Yeah.
But this idea that presentations can be entertaining, I take a lot of inspiration for the videos that I do these days,
Yeah.
thinking this way, right? It can be a form of entertainment.
Yeah.
Before we close, sister, we have the winners,
Yeah.
the winners of Be Better November. So who's getting? Steven. Steven is getting the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Steven, congratulations. It's an amazing hardware. If you're into doing videos, you're going to be able to do a lot with those cameras. Really good hardware, really good phone. And then we have Takunda and Daphne. Daphne showing up again.
Yeah.
A lot of energy during Better November. Congratulations to all the winners.
Yeah, absolutely deserved for all of you.
Congratulations to all the winners. And sister, before we close, what's going on next? Convert is still up to something today.
Yes, so this is just the first live of the day. We still have a panel on how to turn your website insights into revenue driving changes.
Okay.
So this is an incredible, it's an incredible panel. It's going to be in an hour from now.
Yeah, it's
I was
starting
looking at
1
your watch.
hour from now. So you
Yeah.
have the link there and you find pretty much on Convert
Yeah.
LinkedIn page.
So if I were you, I probably not grab a coffee, grab a wine, a glass of wine, sit in front of the TV and watch a panel and learn something more with us.
Fascinating. Sister, Be Better November was a very interesting initiative. I felt like I was really living through, like keeping this in mind, and I'm expecting us to bring this hashtag back in 2025.
Yeah.
Be Better November, like Be Better doesn't stop here, right?
Yeah.
1% better every day. It's just that making a statement every November, it's something very mindful of this community. I had fun. Did you have fun?
I loved it. It's the perfect way to end one year and start another.
Still learning, still having fun. That's what matters. The rest we figure out.
Exactly. Just before we close, Vlad, do we have any comments? Any person who wants to share thoughts with us?
No, not that we
No?
can see.
So then we're calling it a wrap.
That's right.
Well,
Perfect. We're calling it a wrap. That was our conclusion, takeaways, reactions, and reflections from Be Better November. And we'll continue from here. That was great.
Continue being better every day and